Welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week here at MMA Junkie, we take a quick spin through the latest headlines in the sport. Our man Simon Head is out enjoying some ease lockdown rules over in the UK in a sentence that I never thought I would be saying. So I'm back in the hosting seat today. Gorgeous George and Goze are with me. As always, let's get them on the clock. Gentlemen, the UFC is back in action, and fights are going to be held just about every weekend moving forward. But the biggest story in the sport right now is unquestionably about a guy who's not going to compete right now, Jon Jones. Bones says he's out and he has absolutely no interest in defending his title. Maybe he'll be back in 2021 to fight Israel Adesanya, but only if the UFC is willing to pay the big bucks. Can this situation be salvaged, or are Jon Jones and Dana White just too dug into their position to budge from their current stances? A lot to unpack here. We'll put 3 minutes on the clock and start with you. Go, have at it.
Yeah, this is a weird situation, guys, because, history has shown that Jon and Dana don't really seem to be on the same page all the time. I don't know that they have the right temperament to get things done. They don't speak to each other very often, so I think for the situation to be cleared up, somebody else is going to have to step in and fix this all. But really, I don't understand the argument too much from Jon Jones' side, because this is a heavyweight fight that I think we would all be into, but it doesn't need to happen. And I think when you have a situation where there's a fight that needs to happen, that's when you develop this leverage where you can ask for more money. In this particular situation, if these two don't fight, that's fine. I mean, Jon Jones has things to do at light heavyweight, so I don't understand why he needs this giant pay raise. I could see a little bit because he's going to heavyweight. That's fine. Now, Jon on his side, vacating his title, I don't know what that really does, because that doesn't get him out of his contract. If anything, I think it hurts him financially, because if he were to take another fight, now he doesn't have those pay-per-view points. Now, granted, he'd probably negotiate that, but still, it just seems like it would be a step back. I think Jon just has to take himself out of this heavyweight title picture that he's developed and kind of move on from there.
Yeah, it's really a weird situation. There's a lot going on there, and I don't understand what we're going to do with this light heavyweight title. It's bizarre. George, you tell me, what are you seeing out of this? We got Hunter Campbell that might be able to fix some things out in there, but what do you think? How's this thing going to play out?
Yeah, so basically I think they were just trying to capitalize a little bit on the fact that, we had no answers with Miocic and Cormier. Basically the roster was kind of cut in half, I would imagine out of the 600, 300 are international fighters maybe. And so maybe the North American-based fighters thought, well, you know what, in the meantime, some of us have to step up and fight, and maybe this is a good opportunity to dabble a little bit with the heavyweight division. I see Dana White's point. He's thinking, well, this guy's going to fight at heavyweight, but then go back down to light heavyweight. So is there a firm commitment here? Is he fighting for a title? Like Goze said, maybe this fight just didn't need to happen. So maybe the leverage actually wasn't there. Now, that said, we're already here where we're at. And I think cooler heads will prevail. The UFC's had these problems with BJ Penn, with Randy Couture, with Tito Ortiz. And some of them never came back the way they once were. Some did. At the end of the day, it's a business transaction, and I think they'll get it done. I think Jones needs to fight in the UFC while he's at the top, and I think the UFC definitely needs to keep as many of their superstars as they can. So hopefully, again, they can fix this. Now, I think they should just go in the direction of Jon. Look, it's either Jan, Dominic, Santos, whoever, one of those guys. But let's get going, because you do have some quality opposition waiting for you. And with Ngannou, all he has to do is really wait out maybe another 3 to 6 months, depending on when that other fight happens, and then he'll be fighting for gold. So really, I think it'll all get fixed. It was just a bunch of drama in our lives.
Yeah, fingers crossed, man. I really hope the same. It's a rough situation right now, but hope cooler heads will prevail and we'll get by this. So let's talk about the fights that are happening. Gilbert Burns made a big statement this past weekend. He had a dominant victory over former champion Tyron Woodley. Now, Durinho wants a shot at the belt. Now, even though his teammate's the reigning champion, he's willing to fight Kamaru Usman, but welterweight is awfully crowded at the top right now. So what do you think is really going to happen? Unfortunately, Durinho says he'll fight just about anybody, but what's going to happen next for Gilbert Burns after that great performance? Let's put George on the clock. 2 minutes. Go.
Yeah, basically, I think we're left with options, and those options only appear if they can't resolve Usman versus Masvidal, which is the fight that has been talked about and the fight that needs to happen. I think he made himself the number one contender. But if it's true that Masvidal might have options, or if they just can't get those two to dance, then Gilbert Burns just took a big step. I think basically what we're left with is the biggest fight at the gate right now is probably the rematch with Covington. I mean, I think he's made his way up, to that type of a level. I think the most deserving is probably Leon Edwards. I think he's got like an 8-fight win streak. I mean, that guy's been killing it, But the pandemic kind of ruined all that. And so here comes Gilbert Burns. He's the hot ticket. And the UFC seems to be right now jumping on these opportunities, these hot tickets. He says he's healthy. He's ready to go. The teammate issue won't be a problem. So I'm thinking Burns might have actually stole the opportunity here.
Classic George move there, just naming everybody on the roster basically and taking them all away. It goes. What do you think? What's going to happen next for Gilbert Burns?
Oh my God, it's such a difficult situation, guys. Gilbert Burns, he had that type of performance that we said he needed to have in order to earn this title fight. Had he dispatched of Woodley early on, I think maybe people could even point and say, well, maybe he just caught Woodley. But this was domination over 5 rounds. This is a different beast. So I think he proved a lot of things here. And this is a what have you done for me lately type sport. This is what's fresh in everybody's mind. So I think if that's the direction the UFC wants to go in, they got to do it right away. Because, look, George is right. Masvidal kind of controls his own destiny. If he wants a shot, I think it's his. But I think that only lasts for so long. There's so much heat between all these guys at the top that, yeah, you can kind of pick and choose and put people in there. But I think it could actually be Gilbert's shot. I think he could take it. And then I think that leaves, maybe Colby Covington and Leon Edwards or somebody else to duke it out.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. I hope they can get that Masvidal fight together. That's the fight I want to see. But Burns made a big statement, man. He kind of pushed everybody to the table. They got to answer. So let's talk about Tyron Woodley now. He's been basically shut out in his past 10 rounds in the UFC. He's 38 years old. He's already considered one of the greatest welterweight champions in UFC history. He really doesn't have anything left to prove, to be honest with you. I'm not trying to push him out, but what do you think? I mean, does this mark the end for Tyron Woodley, or are there some fights that you see that you're excited to put him in? Goze, let's start with you. Let's put 2 minutes on the clock. Have at it.
All right. So when you look at this situation, I think the first thing you have to figure out is, was this Tyron Woodley maybe losing a step, or was it Gilbert Burns looking that good? And I think it's the latter, guys. I think really this was Gilbert Burns looking really, really good. So Tyron Woodley, he gave no excuses. He said that he felt good going into this camp. He felt great throughout the camp. So now I think it's just something that he's got to figure out. It's more on the mental side, because I think physically he always looks like he comes in prepared. So what you got to do now if you're Tyron Woodley is, I think you got to just sit back, figure out what's going on here. There's a lot of fights that are unfinished business fights for Tyron that he can always revisit. You don't say the things that you said to Colby Covington and that he said back to you and not have a fight after that, right? And then there's the Leon Edwards fight that kind of has a little unfinished business. So I think those two guys eventually have to lose to somebody. This is too much of a talented division. And I think Tyron maybe picks up a fight with one of those guys, but he's got to get his deal in order first before he can do that.
Yeah, it was a tough spot. This was supposed to be his redemption. It didn't happen. George, what do you think? Is there more on the table for him right now?
I think so, but I think the key will be something that his coach Dean Thomas told us, and that's that he's ready to knock them out one by one, and maybe get 3 in before the summer's over. Now, that sounded a bit optimistic. Woodley definitely takes a lot of time between his fights, but this seemed to be like a new Tyron Woodley that we were talking to on Fight Week, where he really seemed to put everything else on the back burner, and he wanted to make either 2020 or maybe 2020 and 2021 a very busy year. So, he, like Goze said, he was very honest in his assessment. He sounds like he's healthy. So you know what? Take another fight. And let's see if he can go 2-0, then maybe he still has a future in this sport. You can never count a lot of these athletes out that have made great moves, late moves in their careers. You point back to Michael Bisping. He did it. So Tyron Woodley's definitely capable of it. Is it likely? I don't know. This is a stacked division.
Yeah, it's a tough spot for him, but I don't think he's done yet. But it's just, how deep does he want to go against those killers up at the top of the welterweight division? So, listen, the main event was certainly the big focus of this past weekend's card, but there were a lot of prospects on this card as well, and a couple of them made some big statements in their fight. So let's look down the card. Some of these up-and-coming names. What were the standout names for you, guys or gals, that you'll be paying more attention to moving forward after what they did this past weekend? George, let's start with you. 2 minutes. How about it?
I was really impressed with Roosevelt Roberts. To me, it looks like he is fighting in slow motion compared to his opposition. And so he seems like a very calm fighter. And I don't know, man. I was very impressed with him on the feet. I thought he had a nice 1-2. I thought he used his spacing well, his patience. He let the game come to him. And then, of course, on the ground, he's very, very slick. Sounds like he's confident. He's got some swag to him. And then guess what, guys? On the losing side, Spike, man, Carla, I like that guy. He really unloaded the gas tank for all 15 minutes. And that guy showed me a lot of heart. A lot of people had him winning the fight too, but still, it was just his output that was there. I think that's something you can build on. I think he proved a lot to himself. He gained a lot. So I can't wait for his next one. And I didn't want to just go, winner, because I thought somebody coming on the losing end showed me something that night.
Yeah, Roe Roberts was impressive. Spike Carlisle, I'll argue they didn't go all 15 minutes. He went about 14 minutes and 50 seconds. There were a couple seconds into round one. He wasn't going very well. Goze, what about you? Any names there that stood out to you?
Yeah, I like Billy Quarantino and Spike Carlisle. I felt like that was a fight that had no loser in it, really. Both put on a great show. But for me, the one that stood out was Mackenzie Dern. It feels like she finally might have taken that next step in the evolution of her game and in her career. She finally, it seems like the weight issues are done. She's a mother now. She's very marketable. It reminds me a lot of Ronda Rousey, where Ronda Rousey came in with that judo game and added on to it. She's coming with this BJJ game, and she's been adding on to it little by little. I think she's very marketable, and I feel like the UFC could have a star here if they point her in the right direction and don't try and overwhelm her right now. I think they could have a really big star on their hands. I was very impressed by her performance.
Yeah, she seems like she's really starting to come into her own for sure. By the way, I liked Casey Kenny, Jamal Hill. Thought they both looked great. But how about Brandon Royval, man? To make a debut like that, pretty impressive stuff. So, all right, let's look ahead to this weekend. UFC 250, women's featherweight titles in the headliner. But let's be honest, to me, I think the most intriguing aspect of this card is the bantamweight division, man. You got a Sunsock Garbrandt, you got Sterling Sandhagen, you got Wineland O'Malley. I mean, all those great fights at 135 pounds. Now, we know it looks like it's going to be Jose Aldo and Peter Yan for the vacant title, but that's not official yet. So I want to ask you guys, is there any chance that one of these fighters fighting at UFC 250 could make a statement and kind of jump ahead in the line and replace either one of those fighters in there? Could somebody get a title shot out of this? Let's put Goze on the clock. 2 minutes.
Yeah, man, I think it's Aljamain Sterling. If he can get a win here, but if he can do it kind of like Gilbert Burns in a very impressive manner, then I think he's got the stats, he's got his performance behind him. How do you say no to a guy like that? If you take what he would have a 5-fight winning streak and put it up against Jose Aldo, who's got a 2-fight losing streak. It doesn't really make sense. I think he puts a lot of pressure on the UFC, and we all know that Aljamain can be vocal as well on his side. So if he adds all of that with his post-fight speech, I think it's almost impossible for him to be denied. He doesn't even have these travel restrictions that some fighters have. You never know. I mean, even Jose Aldo in his camp, his head coach I believe he came down with COVID. So, there's a lot to deal with on that side. I think this is for Aljamain Sterling. If he can get a win, I think he's the guy that just cannot be denied. It'd be a great run for him.
Boy, I wasn't even thinking about all that stuff with Andre Pederneiras and, of course, the travel and all that, man. You make a great case there, Goze. To be honest, man, I thought Aljamain Sterling should have been in a title fight to begin with if there was going to be a vacant belt on the line. George, how about you? Is Sterling, is there a chance he slides in, or any of those other names or scenarios you see playing out where maybe that's not the title fight that we think is going to happen?
Yeah, I agree that Sterling definitely is in the pole position right now. But since it sounds like it's Yan and Aldo, I don't know if Sterling at that point really shakes that up. Unless, again, on the personal side, anything having to do with Day-Day, which is Andre Pederneiras, and travel restrictions, because Brazil's getting really, really hit hard with COVID-19 now as the virus makes its way to the southern hemisphere. So if something were to upset that, then yeah, I think it's Sterling's shot to lose. But one guy that I've been told a lot about is Cody Garbrandt and how marketable he is. He's got a lot of sponsors that pay him good money even when he's not fighting. And I think the UFC also recognizes this guy as a potential star at the box office. So I think anytime he can go out there and ice somebody, he has a chance of doing some leapfrogging if everybody else, doesn't rise to the occasion.
Yeah, the idea of Garbrandt and Yan sounds like a lot of fun, too. Stylistically, man, that would be an absolute banger. So, all right, we'll see what happens. Listen, guys, after months of inactivity, we are back in action. UFC 250 is this weekend. We already have 2 more fight weeks after that have been officially announced, and we're expecting plenty more to come right after it. So it seems like our sport is back, thankfully. Of course, we'll stay on top of everything that happens, and we will discuss it all on Spinning Back Clique.